So thanks for joining us today, Tim. This is so great to have you here from Australia. Yay! A fellow Australian, how fun. And I know you want to talk to us about Vedic meditation. And I actually went to an introductory talk with Tim a few months ago, which I absolutely loved in Sydney. And so I'd love for you to speak to a little bit about how you got into meditation yourself, and then obviously we'll dive into how other people can get into it. And I will start our timer because I think that's a little bit important.
Good idea. That's a good idea. I've got a habit of talking for a long time, so just give me the nod if the timer starts making noise at you.
Okay.
My background, well, meditation really was not on my agenda at all. Prior to learning to meditate 20 years ago now, I was a beer drinking, rugby playing agricultural economist. And this just really wasn't on my radar. I hadn't really considered it. But having left university and traveled, and I ended up getting a job in Uzbekistan, of all places, in 1996. Wow. And I worked out there professionally in agriculture for a couple of years. And it was an amazing experience for an Aussie boy, and I spent a lot of time, thinking as well while I was working out there. I had to learn Russian and Uzbek on the ground, so it's a very challenging environment. It's when I got back to Australia, time to settle down, grow up, and get a job, that the pressure started building. And an aunt of mine introduced me to meditation. Very fortunately, I was very fortunate. When she first mentioned it, I think I laughed at her. But fortunately I listened and learned to meditate 20 years ago, and everything kind of went from there.
Oh, fantastic. I think it's so important to speak to, because there can be people out there that may be hearing the interview or just may happen upon it that are not curious at all. There's a side of curiosity where, oh wow, what's Vedic meditation, but there's also sometimes where we just think, I'm so stressed, and the last thing I could do is think about something like sitting on a what's the word, false picture of meditation, that it's like sitting in a cave somewhere. So I think it's really, really important to speak to. Often we come to it in times of confusion or stress or not knowing, and that kind of thing.
It was certainly my experience, coming back, and it was time to settle down, grow up, get a job. I was in my mid-20s and pressure was building. I was getting pushed down the Myers-Briggs testing, and the pressure was building, and I just wasn't handling it. Yeah. And I knew I had to do something, and that was the time I was ready, for something. I didn't really know, but again, very fortunate. And I think my background, not being someone that traditionally would have kind of walked into or towards meditation, probably helps me relate to people these days that aren't that way inclined necessarily, but to explain it that way. In fact, my centre here in Paddington in Sydney is opposite the Four in Hand pub. And I love that. So where's your centre? I say, do you know the Four in Hand, the pub? And yeah, so well, my centre is directly opposite. If you rolled out the front door of the Four in Hand, you'd roll in the front door of my centre. and I quite like that, that it's not about sitting up in a cave up in the hills somewhere. It's about being right in the thick of life and developing a practice that really supports that experience rather than detracts or pulls us away from it.
Yeah. I love that. That it supports the life that we're living in, the life that we've chosen, and living in that day to day, especially in Sydney, opposite a pub, who, for those non-Australians, the pub is like the place.
It's the drinking hole, it's the watering hole.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Do you want to speak to us a little bit about, meditation itself, Vedic meditation, and the approach of Vedic meditation, and why it would be good for somebody that's looking for a simple approach?
Yeah, I mean, Vedic meditation has been called lots of things over the years. It's over 5,000 years old, the technique. It was referred to as transcendental meditation. It was referred to as deep meditation. It's been called lots of things. We now refer to it as Vedic meditation. And there are lots of other techniques as well that are valuable and useful as well. What I particularly like about Vedic meditation is its simplicity, its ability to be able to be practiced anywhere, on the bus, on the train, on the plane, in the boardroom, down by that beautiful beach of ours at Bronte. If you can sit and close your eyes, you can meditate. And no need for, necessarily difficult sitting positions or staring at candles or anything like that, which I think just really allows people to engage with meditation practice in the dynamics of, being in the world with family, with friends, with careers, and all of those things, and just giving ourselves the opportunity to hit the pressure valve, do the defrag on the mental, physical, and emotional state, recharge, refuel, and go again. And that's what the practice, I think, does really beautifully. If you think of the mind, top of the mind's that very busy, wavy, active level of the mind. Bottom of the mind's that very deep, quiet, lovely, blissful state of the mind. So what we're trying to do with meditation, all techniques ultimately, but what we're really looking to do with Vedic meditation is to get the mind to move through that vertical plane and go from that very busy, active level into those deep, inner, quiet, blissful states. And with the use of a mantra, passed on correctly with correct instruction, that becomes a very simple process. But the beauty of this knowledge and the beauty of this teaching is that those three things are very clearly set out. And the way I talk about it's a bit like learning to ride a bike. When you're learning to ride a bike, you need to be fitted for the bike. You need someone to hold the back of the bike while you get the balance, with correct instruction. It takes a little bit of doing, but anybody can learn to ride a bike. Meditation is exactly the same. Not complicated, not difficult, but we do need correct mantra passed on correctly with correct instruction. And if we can do that, if we get that, guidance and that support, then getting the mind to move deep and quickly is not complex. It's not difficult. It's something that everybody can do very, very quickly. I've taught over 4,500 people to meditate now over the last 18 years of teaching, from 4 years of age to 90 years of age. Mums, dads, kids, corporates, creatives, a number of, the rugby players, the cricketers. I teach a lot of people with anxiety, depression, and illnesses. And the beauty is that with that structure, anybody can practice meditation, start to access these deep states of rest 5 times deeper than sleep. Scientifically proven 5 times deeper than sleep. And that just really gives us the rest and relaxation that we need, that additional rest and relaxation that we need in this day and age. As you know, Maddie, we're living in extraordinary times. The fact that you're sitting in Italy and I'm sitting in Sydney and we're, conversing in real time is something that was just, beyond real thinking, or certainly not available 10, 12 years ago. Really not that available. 15 at the outside was not available. And yet here we are speaking virtual time across the world. It's amazing. The acceleration that I was watching a talk the other day, a TED talk by one of the world's leading neuroscientists. And he was saying someone living in a city anywhere in the world in 2018-19 is being exposed to the same levels of stimulation in one day that someone 200 years ago would have been exposed to in their whole lifetime.
Whoa.
And that period of time, that 250 years, includes the introduction of steam, electricity, cars, aeroplanes, and the personal computer. And that has all happened in just a very, very short period of time. The human brain and body that's been developing over, 250,000 years, in this last little blink of an eye, the escalation and dynamics has just taken off. And it's exciting and it's great. It's not bad news. It's fantastic. But the fact is we have to, and I think this is what we're becoming acutely aware of, is that we have to do something to counterbalance that stimulation experience. And that's where meditation, which is application of the third law of thermodynamics, which is as you de-excite any system, it moves towards a state of order. As you excite and stimulate a system, it moves towards a state of disorder or chaos.
Right.
And
I'd
we
love to,
just,
I'd love to stay on that for a moment. That's
yeah,
brilliant. So when you're speaking to, because I know um, it can often be exciting to be doing what we do and being out in the world and being with our kids and that
yeah,
kind of thing, and that heightened state of excitement and like you said, like sort of exposure to so many things can often be a train we've just jumped on and we're just rolling with at the time.
yeah,
But I'd love to speak to that side of just taking that moment to bring everything back to stillness and how that then affects our day. Can you speak a little bit more to that?
yeah. It's such a, again, we need to, it's about balance. We're always looking for balance. And
Mm,
again, the dynamics of technology and transport and, all of the wonderful things that have come to us in the last couple of thousand years, again, great effect and great benefit, and have, I think, have really enhanced our lives. But there is always the counterbalancing, with the yang must come the yin. And so it's just that counterbalancing experience. And I think that's why, yoga and meditation and these kinds of techniques are really escalating the world's, focus and interest, is because the need for them is growing exponentially to counterbalance the experience.
mm,
And that's what I love about this practice. 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon is the maximum advised practice. And we get that deep, we can access these states 5 times deeper than sleep. So 20 minutes meditation is equivalent to about 3 hours sleep. So if someone's meditating twice a day for 20 minutes, they're getting an additional about 6 hours of sleep equivalent into their brain and body on a daily basis.
mm,
That turns off their adrenaline, noradrenaline, cortisol. It just rests that,
mm-hmm,
you know, the body the opportunity to turn that off, activate the serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, all that high grade well-being healing chemistry that just allows the whole brain and body to settle, stop, recharge, refuel, reorganize in readiness for dynamic activity. This is where all the fun is out here.
mm-hmm.
And we want to be able to enjoy that. But if we don't give the mind and body the opportunity to reset, recharge, refuel, then what we tend to do is we become overwhelmable. We become more and more overwhelmed or overwhelmable.
Mm.
And, for years, people have asked me, tell me one word what meditation can deliver. For years, I batted that question away and it kept coming. So I decided that I had to rise to the challenge. I went looking for a word, couldn't find one. So I decided to make one up.
Okay, great. Always a good way.
It's like, don't let that stop you.
Yeah.
And when people ask me that question, they say, tell me what meditation, is designed to bring, and what's it for? What's it designed to bring to me? And my response to that is unoverwhelmability.
Mm,
Unoverwhelmability is the goal.
great.
And if we can access that inner quietness and stillness within, that foundation of our conscious state, which is everyone's foundation, if we can touch on that on a daily basis, then our ability to operate inside of the dynamics with that inner stability becomes so much greater, because we become less and less able to be overwhelmed by the experiences of life. And that changes everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is why it's becoming so much more important.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, for someone looking to start a meditation practice or even just to approach it in any way, and I know you have something to speak to about this, the practice of the simplicity of the idea that that could be just 20 minutes in the morning and just 20 minutes in the afternoon is very, very attractive. because the whole idea of, okay, I really need to sit in a really uncomfortable position for hours and hours and hours of time
Yeah.
to achieve any sort of stillness or any sort of calm and connected feeling. There is that whole thing of, but I just don't have time. Yet anybody can find 20 minutes, right? 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon. So can you speak a little bit about to why perhaps the Vedic approach of mantra is so effective and can still the mind in the short amount
Yeah,
of time?
absolutely. So I think what this line of teaching, research into the inner mechanics of mind and body, of an unbroken lineage of teachers over 5,000 years, have worked out a very simple aspect or mechanism of the mind. And that is that one of the, and it seems so obvious when you say it, but one of the natures of the mind is to move towards greater charm. The mind is constantly seeking a more charming scenario for itself. That's what the mind is constantly doing. Here I am today, it's Wednesday here. If I can tick this, and this, this set of things off my to-do list, I can go away this weekend, I can relax, enjoy, and I don't have to think about all these other things. The mind is constantly looking for a more charming scenario for itself. So once we understand that, we can employ it. The introduction of a mantra is a manas, mind, tra, vehicle, a mind vehicle. In this practice, it's a very simple sound. It's not a word. As soon as we introduce a word or a phrase or an aphorism into the mind in a meditative practice, the mind will immediately start contemplating the meaning of that aphorism or statement or whatever it happens to be. With this practice, it's a sound that is chosen for each individual based on their stage of life predominantly. So their age sits inside of what we call stage of life from the Vedic perspective, and that sound has a very particular quality or resonance to it that's intrinsically engaging or charming to the mind, but it has no meaning. And so when we sit to meditate, just sit in the chair, close the eyes, and bring that sound very gently to mind, it's charming, so the mind engages with it. As it engages with it, the mind becomes interested because it's intrinsically charming. As it does that, but it doesn't have any meaning, that mantra will automatically refine or slip. As it slips, it becomes more subtle, therefore more charming. Therefore, the mind becomes more interested. Therefore, the mind spontaneously refines or the mantra slips again. So all of a sudden, the mind that's usually bouncing around here on the surface level, it's what I call conscious snorkeling. Fun bouncing around here on the surface, yeah? What the mind starts to do is starts to orientate itself into this dive into the deeper states of the mind, or to stretch the analogy, conscious scuba dive. And it starts to move very naturally and easily through that vertical plane without effort, force, or trying to focus or control the mind or stop it thinking. That manas, mind, through our vehicle, just like a lift in a building. You get in that lift in the building and you press the button, it starts to move through the vertical plane of the building. Just like that, mantra, approached correctly, will naturally start to take the mind through that vertical plane. And as the mind goes that way, because the mind and body are absolutely interconnected, the mind goes, body follows.
Right.
The stress chemistry turns on the bliss chemistry. Well, that lovely serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin. Yeah. And that's where we go into a healing mode, restructuring, refueling, refreshing. And that prepares us for, dynamic outward activity. This is where all the fun is, out here. But the big key in this, the big challenge in this day and age, is how to get the rest and relaxation into the brain and body to prepare us for that dynamic activity. And so that we can operate in that high level with clarity, creativity, energy, joyfulness, intelligence, consistently and sustainably.
That's our timer, unfortunately. Oh, Tim, that's fantastic. I know this is gold, and I know so many people are going to benefit from that explanation. Just that simple explanation of what's happening and how we can bring ourselves quite simply just by learning into that state. Now, just really quickly, because I love what you've written to me. We spoke a little bit about, I don't think many people know this, but as I've been doing the interviews, we've been sharing, people have been sharing their top 5 values and what they're about. So if we could just share really quickly the top 3, I think it's super important, or maybe even just the first one, because it really is. And your one is self-nourishment is not optional. We can't give what we don't have. And I just think that's like so great. So then just speak like for a really, really short time about that.
I think that is the thing that we haven't been taught, is that we've always been taught that giving to everybody else is a great thing to do, but nourishing ourselves is self-interested. And I think that's something we need to relearn. We need to nourish ourselves in order to be able to support and nourish others. My experience is, as a, you know, as a father of 3 and all of the things that I do, is that my experience is that if we're going to do that, can't take very long, has to be able to be done anywhere, and has to have very few, if any, prerequisites. Because if it doesn't fulfill those 3 criteria, it's not going to happen. That's what I love about meditation. It's like a Formula One pit stop of meditation. In, refuel, new wheels, new tires, you know, back on track.
Yeah.
And that's beauty. And we nourish ourselves. You know, charity begins at home. We've got to do this first, and then we can really come giving.
Yeah.
If we've got a lot, we can give a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, brilliant. And the second one, I'm going to go over time. Smile and say hello to people. You never know what might happen. This is just so fantastic.
I think that's what makes life. You know, you can walk past people like ghosts on the street, and you know, everybody's got a story. Everybody's got something going on. You can always learn something. You can always make a contribution. You know, getting our eyes up and saying hello just breaks that symmetry. That's where connection starts. And my experience is that's where all the magic in life comes from.
Yeah.
And it's right in front of us every day. It's everywhere. Yeah. Just to smile, you can make somebody's day. You can change somebody's day by, you know, putting your head up and saying g'day. I'm a country boy, so, you know, I was just taught that that's the way that you operate. When I started walking around the cities of the world, I got some strange looks when I started doing it. But I've decided
kept doing it. I love that. You kept doing it.
Decided to do it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, so Tim and I have a common beach where Tim's actually living where I grew up, and there is that small town feel sometimes to Bronte, right? When you're walking along the promenade there or taking that walk, and people are like morning, 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 and it's such a different way to start the day, you know, to have a wander along there and see people and
it's a little bit Truman Show at times, but you know, it's a very special thing. We actually moved to that beach for that reason.
Right.
You know, to bring children up in that environment and by the ocean and connected to community. It was the closest thing to living in the country that we could find inside of a city. We did that very consciously.
Yeah, that's great. And then the third one, which I absolutely love, is learn to truly listen. It's the greatest gift you can give someone, to be heard without interruption and judgment. That's so beautiful.
Oh, it's just, you know, and as you can see, I don't mind talking. So, but I think it is, you know, to be able to provide a space for somebody where they can speak freely without judgment and be truly listened to. Is such a rare thing these days, and it is such a gift that we can give to each other instead of trying to think of the response, but just listen. Really, truly listen to somebody without the need to comment or say something or, you know, respond quickly or be witty, but just listen is such a powerful thing. And again, as I've done that with people over the years, it's extraordinary what happens. I've learned so much myself by just, you know, shutting up and listening at times. And giving, it's such a great gift that we can give to each other. It's such a simple thing. It's such a powerful thing. We so rarely do it, but it makes an enormous difference to all of the relationships that we have. Such a powerful and simple thing we can all give each other.
Fantastic. Thanks, Tim. And I know you're so good at it because we've had a one-on-one mentoring, and I know it was fantastic. So on that, people may be looking to reach out to you. If people are looking to reach out to you after this and wanting to learn a little bit more about meditation or starting meditation, do you want to give them where they can come find you, a website or across the pub, apart from across the pub, the four in hand?
You know, just go to the four in hand, roll out the front door, and you'll end up at my place. You can wander in here anytime. Otherwise, there's this new fandangle, you know, technology, this internet, the interweb, or whatever it is. And I've got a website, and it's timbrownmeditation.com. So
Okay.
nice and easy. And there's actually a little video there, just a 4-minute video that explains a little bit more about how I teach. And I run courses here in Paddington, and weekend programs and weeknight programs. And that's the way that people can come and, learn how to ride the meditation bike.
Yeah.
Um, and if they want to, and there's lots of things that happen around here. But yeah, they're more than welcome to have a little look there and call or come and see me here anytime.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Tim. That's awesome. I'm so looking forward to this one going out and reaching lots of people and yeah, reaching those who need it, those who are ready to jump on the meditation bike.
My pleasure, Maddie. And I'm sorry I went over time, but we always knew that was going to happen. I warned you before we started.
Yeah, we could really talk for hours. I know. All right. Thanks so much, Tim.
If you want to do, another session, happy to.
Okay, great. Fantastic. Definitely. See you.
Okay.
Thank you.
See you from down under.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.